Okay, I'll call the meeting of the East Windsor Zoning Board of Appeals to order on Monday, November 7th. It's 7:04 I have on my watch. We have 4 members here. Well, we have three members, Nolan Davis, Dan Noble, myself, and Kurt Ketchel as the alternate. That gives us a quorum of 4. However, because there is a requirement under the statutes that you need four votes to be able to pass, approve, or overturn a decision of zoning officer, which we do have here. The applicants will have the option of continuing this to another meeting, and in hopes we get 5 people. So who's here for the United AG and Turf?
Who's here for?
Dave Hammond online, folks, from United Ag and Turf.
Well, David, here's the deal. If a 3-to-1 vote in your favor does not get you the variance under state statutes, you need 4 positive votes under the statutes. You have the option of coming back at another meeting when we do have 5 people.
Nope, that's fine. 4 of you folks will be just fine
You
tonight.
realize that 1 negative vote will deny your application.
I understand.
Okay,
That's fine.
so just for the record, do we
We
have
have
that?
a person who's joined. Hi, the newest person that's logged on, it's DEGENSL. Could you state your name for us, please?
Stephen Deegan,
Stephen Deegan, SDEPHEN.
Steven,
How do I spell your last name? DE.
Degen.
And who are you here for, sir?
I'm with the Connecticut Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Okay, so let's, I guess we do have a quorum. At this point, I think we have a flag in there. We don't have a flag, but we can.
We
Oh,
do.
yeah, right. We thought of everything. So we can all stand and do the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Flag of the United States of America, Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Justice for all. Okay, so new hearings, I do have a legal notice here. The secretary is not here, so I guess I'll just read it. And East Windsor Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Monday, November 7th, 2022 at 7 p.m. To consider the application detailed below. The meeting will be held at East Windsor Town Hall, 11 Rice Street, Broadbrook, Connecticut, and online. Details regarding how to attend will be published on the commission's agenda and will be made available on town web. First hearing is ZBA-2022-03. Applicant owner, United AG and Turf / SCF Funding 4th IV LLC. Has an application before the East Windsor Zoning Board of Appeals to request a variance to relocate their current sign for the East Windsor zoning regulations, section 602. Map block MBL number is 052-20. 61-1 zone is TZ5, and this appeared in Journal Inquirer editions on October 14th and October 28th. Okay, so the way we're running the meeting is we'll have the applicant explain what their proposal is. We'll then have any questions from the board members, and then we'll open it up to the public. Discussion and a vote.
When do you want the report from staff?
And this, I'm sorry, the staff after the applicant,
Okay.
before the commission. Important piece. So we'll do the applicant first, staff, board, and then the public. Okay, the floor is all yours.
Good evening, folks. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so long story short, basically the property that we have 2.5 years ago, we bought Stanton Equipment, the John Deere dealer at 105 South Main Street, Scotty Stanton's location. And we have basically built a new facility up the street about 500 feet at 119 South Main Street, which was all approved by the town. We're actually fortunate enough to be able to move into that in approximately 2 weeks. And what we're looking to basically do is relocate our current John Deere sign, which we have on our front lawn at 105 South Main Street, up to our new address at 119 South Main Street. The current sign is a John Deere sign. You folks probably have it in your packet. It does measure more than the allowable size with the town of East Windsor. It is basically a direct relocation. What we're looking to take our current sign that we've had on our property for over 10 years now and relocate it 500 feet up the street to our new location. It is a separate parcel of land. We understand that. It's 7 acres right on the South Main Street. The John Deere sign, as you guys can see in your packet, is approximately 13 feet tall, 7 feet wide. I would make a note on it. I understand that the square footage requirement is 32 square feet. However, if you look at the information in the picture of our sign, the top part of our sign is 7 foot by 7 foot, so about 49 square feet. And then we have our logo tag where it says United Ag and Turf, which is about 7 feet wide by 2 feet tall. The majority of it's silver in color, but does say our name in it. And then the bottom 4 feet of our sign is basically just the base to the sign, if you would. So I understand that the whole entire square footage of the sign is 91 square feet, which is clearly more than the 32 foot allowable by the town. It is an existing sign that we've had for our place of business. To be quite truthful, we're making a pretty large investment with in this area, and had decided to stay in East Windsor and build our new facility there, trying to figure, the town of East Windsor is business friendly, and we really want to have a John Deere sign out front. This is one of the smallest signs that John Deere has for a lawn sign. At most of our locations, we actually have a 30-foot tall pylon sign, which is 150 square feet. We aren't requesting that. We're just simply asking to move our existing sign that we've had for over 10 years, 500 feet up the street to our brand new state-of-the-art facility. And we really need to have a John Deere sign because we're in the John Deere business. And we honestly didn't understand this rule. I guess it was shame on me for not doing my due diligence. I didn't think it was going to be a big issue to take our current sign that we have at our current location and move it next door to our new facility. So at the end of the day, we understand we're over the square footage requirement.
I lost you.
We're losing audio. We can't hear you. It's all coming out garbled.
It has been there.
Mr. Hammond, you're frozen.
Could you try, if you can hear us, could you try to log off and log on again? Okay, so we just wait to hopefully this is there you go.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, while he's coming back online, David Swam is on his way to join you
All
as an
right,
alternate. Okay.
okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Evidently the kids just jumped on the Zoom, jumped on the internet. So I apologize for that, but I'm back.
Okay, go ahead. And then
So basically, that's what we're looking to do, folks, is just take our current sign and move it up the street to our new place of business, and looking to have approval to do so. Of course, it will have all the proper setbacks from the street, and it's gonna be the same exact sign, just moved up the street from 105 to 119. And I understand that, by the ZBA approving, this relocation, it might set up, I really don't see how it's gonna set a precedent, I guess. I hate for further people that, down the timeline to come before you guys and say, well, the folks at United have a bigger sign than is allowed, but it is a current sign that we've had, and I think it's a fairly simple ask that we're just trying to increase our business and provide good customer service, and people need to know that we're a John Deere dealer. I mean, I'm assuming they're gonna see all the tractors out front that are green, but at the end of the day, it's not a larger sign than we've already had for over 10 years. So just a simple sign relocation out to our new place of business that we've had a pretty big investment in, and we need to drive business in the door. And that's pretty much the synopsis behind it and what we're looking to try to get accomplished.
David, Ruthann, is David driving here, or is he going on line?
He's gonna be there in person. He said he's 2 minutes up the road.
All right, so let's I guess we can take any staff report on this one?
And I will try not to repeat a lot of what Mr. Hammond said, just reiterate a couple of notes. So it is a separate and distinct parcel, legally separate and distinct parcel, 105 and 119. Section 602.5B of the zoning regulation states that no freestanding sign shall exceed 32 square feet in area. The hardship claimed by the applicant is not being allowed to have a business sign will hurt business. This is as small of a sign as we currently have. The applicant is not being denied a sign by the planning department. The applicant is being denied a sign that, as he stated, is 3 times the square footage allotment of a freestanding sign per the zoning regulations. So the current sign that is at 105 South Main is 91 square feet. It is legally non-conforming. They would like to relocate the sign, but section 602.10 of non-conforming signs of the regulations states non-conforming signs shall not be relocated to any other location unless such relocation results in reducing or eliminating the degree of nonconformity. Additionally, section 9033 outlined for additional requirements for a variance states a variance from the terms of these regulations shall not be granted by the Board of Appeals unless and until the board shall make written finding that B, the special circumstances relate to the condition of land or parcel. D, the special circumstances constitute an exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship not of the applicant's making and are not solely financial in detriment. And F, that granting the variance requested will not confer upon the applicant any special privilege or use that is denied by these regulations to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. Due to these factors, I do not believe that the applicant has met the requirements outlined in the zoning regulations that make a use variance acceptable. In addition, allowing for this variance will set a precedent for freestanding signs for future businesses, rendering the current zoning regulations irrelevant. So it is my recommendation that the zoning board of appeals denies the applicant's request for the variance.
I do have a question for you. You say that the existing sign is illegally non-conforming. Did they get a building permit and a variance for it?
Years ago, I mean, it's been there a very long time. So for
Is that, I would imagine there was no point in time that we allowed a 91 square foot sign.
yeah, I know Ruth and I had looked
And
into that.
I was planner here for
Yeah.
years,
It had to be before you then, because we couldn't find local.
but that sign is, the sign is only 10 years old according to the applicant.
I would have to look into that.
Well, it looks pretty, could be 20, it could be, it looks pretty modern.
Yeah,
It's not your typical, we used to see, I mean, the type of things you usually see for, so do we have a record of a building permit being issued for this? Or-
I don't have a record with us, you know.
It's only.
I wasn't in on that meeting.
Those one.
Zoning board.
Hi. Hey, just for the record, we do have David Swain, who's an alternate, will be sitting in, so now we do have a 5-member board. David, we're,
Thank you.
we just had this staff report. recommend, reading why the application should be denied, and that the applicant explained that they have an existing sign. That they're moving a business to, down the road and want to get a variance for the sign, which only allows 32 square foot in a business zone, and this sign is 91 square feet. So,
Oh, sorry, that's another one.
again,
I just read this, though.
I
It's
don't
in your
know
packet.
when that sign, whether that sign was,
It's-
although maybe that doesn't really matter if it's really not conforming on that property, but
in the sign ordinance.
I don't think we ever allowed it.
So the first sign was approved, August 9th, 2007.
It was good,
Uh-huh.
and it was.
And freestanding signs regulations were amended the 28th of July, 2014. So that sign was approved.
Right, I don't think the word, it seems things like 81 square feet. Would have been excessive for most zones, that I'm familiar with, in most towns, and then sign regulations.
But that's kind of the square footage right down on the ground, isn't it? Where there's a
Yeah, I mean,
nice
this
spot
one,
on
I mean, if you
it,
stretch it,
stand,
if you stretch it a little bit, you could, I mean, sometimes I've seen it where the 7x7 is 49 square. I've seen signs in business zones where towns allow up to 60 square feet or 50 square feet. The United Ag and Turf is another 2x7, so 14 on top of that, so that's 64. And then the bottom one, you can argue whether that doesn't have any kind of, whether that or not, that could be counted as a signage, but in any case, it still would obviously exceeds the right, so. David, since you weren't here, do you have any questions?
That's a pretty big sign, right? 'Cause it's like 100,
It's 90 something, 90.
it's like 10 by 10.
When you're on Route 5 looking at it, it does not look big, even though it says 90 square feet. I mean, going from 30 square feet to 90.
Is this the
that's
new
as
place
big.
that you
Yeah,
talked
it's a new place.
Oh, yeah. I go by
It
there all the
doesn't look
time.
like
No,
a
no,
big size. But
it doesn't- The building's big enough.
when I was here,
Yeah,
Michael
but, yeah.
Sabatella, when he was chairman, we approved the Burlington Coat Factory sign, which is 100 feet tall. And that's way over the 30 square feet.
So you have any questions of the applicant, or
Mr. Hammond's on.
Not,
he's
not
up
at this
there?
moment.
He's up there on the,
None.
How are you?
I have a question.
sure.
Is the sign going to be back by the fence from the road, or is it going to be closer to the road?
You can, we actually had it pre-wired where the big American flagpole is out front, which is basically, I don't remember exactly how many feet that is from the road, sir, but it's all whatever. We talked to the sign company that was gonna look at relocating this, and he gave us the measurements as far as what the legality of it is, but it's basically, it's even with the fence. So when the fence comes across, the fence is actually going to return to the parking lot, but it's basically, it's very similar to the fence. I don't know the exact measurement, to be quite honest, but there's actually conduit stuck out of the ground where the sign will be placed, and that is it's not any closer to the road than that. If not, it's behind the white fence.
And that fence is between 50 and 100 feet off the road. It's set back.
Oh, yeah, it's set back to meet all the DOT Connecticut requirements and what have you. It's not going to be right on top of the road. It's going to be set when you pull in the driveway, right where the big American flag pole is. It's going to be right next to it.
Okay, thank you.
So this sign would be behind the fence.
Up by the fence, I think the flagpole is not, I don't know if it's behind the fence or in front of it.
I go by it all the time. I just haven't.
Right. I believe the flagpole is behind the fence slightly. I'd have to get a measurement. I'm going to be there later this week. I could get a measurement if needed be, but you folks will have a verdict before then.
Okay, and Nolan, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Kurt?
No questions.
Okay, is anybody here from the public that wants to speak? And that, okay,
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. I'm a pro-business person. I I do have a question though. The blank area on the bottom of the sign, does that serve a purpose? That 4-foot piece on the bottom?
It's just basically a shroud. I think it basically is just for look, so you don't have two big posts holding the rest of the sign up. I think it's more aesthetically than anything, sir, just to make the whole sign look symmetrical. Instead of having two big posts, it's just covered by shrouds or covers. I mean, technically, I almost don't think that should be counted as square footage because that's 28 square foot immediately, you know, but yes, it is part of the sign. I understand that. The problem we're running into, John Deere does not have any signs smaller than this. The next size down side, the John Deere works exclusively with one sign company, Allen Industries, and they're the only people that can make our signs for us. And it's kind of, honestly, they're terrible to do business with. We wish we could buy a John Deere sign elsewhere, but we can't. At the end of the day, this is the smallest John Deere sign they have unless you affix one to the building. And we've already gone through the process to put our name on the building and we've met that requirement. So we can't put any more signs on the building because the East Windsor rules. So if we could do away with this sign and put a big John Deere sign on the side of the building, it would probably be fine, but we're beyond that. And to be quite honest, I think it's almost a safety deal when you drive down Main Street. You want to be able to see a sign at the end of the road so you know where to pull in. And this sign isn't in the middle of our 7-acre lot. It's down closer to the driveway, so people know where to turn off the busy street. But yeah, that's the bad thing. And we wish we could buy a sign 32 square feet, but this is the smallest sign John Deere has for a lawn sign available. So we're kind of stuck.
Okay, so my point of that was, if that portion, the blank portion was removed from the sign, not dealing with aesthetics, it could meet the intent of the regulations that say a non-conforming sign to be moved would have to be smaller, and that would make it smaller.
It wouldn't be conforming though.
No,
It wouldn't be
it's
conforming.
within the same property.
It's that it had to be reduced to non-conformance, and that would reduce.
Non-conforming. Non-conforming can be moved if it's reduced to conforming.
Oh,
When moved.
if it's conforming, there's nothing to talk about.
Right,
It wouldn't even be here.
right, but that's
So we're
what
here.
the regulations say.
That's what the regulations say, but I would say that
I thought,
And
and
your
your
record,
record, I'm from the public, I'm Ray Londo, I got a letter in the mail about the sign. I
Okay.
think it's fine to move it first, but that being said, what you read said that it was decreasing the variance, which it would be, what he's saying is correct. So what you read, what I heard was if they shrunk the sign a little bit, it would be okay to move it, based on what you read.
no, that's not.
That's what I heard. It would be okay to move it if it's 32 square.
Within,
no,
yeah.
that
What section was that you were talking about?
It
No.
says, it's
Non-conformity?
section 602-2.10 non-conforming sign,
602 what?
.10, sorry, I have my.
602.1.
.10.
can.
So it says non-conforming signs shall not be relocated to any other location unless such relocation results in reducing or eliminating the degree of non-conformity.
So if you reduce the sign size, it fits that criteria.
Eliminating the degree of non-conformity.
Reducing
Or-
But not-
Or eliminating is not required in
Yeah,
that.
but I think we're also playing semantics, and that usually means on the same block. I mean, it's, well,
Whichever.
let's just go in order.
But- Okay,
Well,
so
get the block.
to me, the concept in this town is to promote business in any way we reasonably can. And this is an existing business, been here for a long, long time. And moving the business kind of leads towards moving the signage to go with the business that's moving. And it's the whole entity that's changing location. So in my opinion, it's an opinion, that this should be granted on that basis alone. And if the sign square footage is reduced. Again, the way I read the regulation, or hear the regulation, that would satisfy the intent of reducing the non-conformity. I'm done.
Okay, anyone else in the public? Go ahead, you say your name and address for the record.
I'm just the resident that lived, and they're removing the sign, so I came down here just to see where the sign was going. I have no problem with where the sign is going, I understand what the regulations are, it's just moving on the street, but basically, legally, because it says or versus and, you as a body has capability of making exceptions based on that. It says or, you say and, if it says and, then you would be locked in, because it says or, legally, you have the ability to make that exception. I mean, even the fact that unless, David, can you remove that shroud?
I honestly don't think we can, folks.
You-
If we remove the gray, we'd have to structurally rebuild the sign and put other braces in. I don't know. I don't really know what's behind that, to be quite truthful. Plus, it's gonna actually look ugly, to be quite honest. We sell a premium line of lawn and garden and tractors, and in general, I don't really want to have a sign out front that's only 2/3 there. When we had a sign to begin with, it was 100% there. But that's just my humble opinion. I'm simple. I'm from Maine, I guess.
I'm just trying to give you an out, brother. If you dig down an inch, so you cut the visible square footage down, that might help you, but other than that, that's my say. I don't have a problem with it being moved.
Anyone else in the public that may be online? You need to raise your hand, I guess, on the Zoom meeting. If you want to speak. And you'll be recognized. I don't see any hands raised. Let's see, any other questions from the people? And then I guess we, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing. Great.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Noble, and all those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, I saw your mouth, you're muted, but I saw your mouth quiet. And
Aye.
I said aye, okay, so the hearing is closed, so now we need a motion on the floor to be able to discuss it, so someone wanted to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Well, you gotta make a motion to approve, or
Okay, I'll make a motion to
in the positive?
approve ZBA 2022-03.
As laid out in the
Very good.
agenda. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Second by Board Member Swain. Okay, discussion, and maybe I'll lead it off. And I guess my issue is, and that's always said, and I've been pretty consistent with this with any sign variances is, I think, you know, those type of signs, if it's good for one person, it's good for everyone. And so the place to take, I guess, to take your case to is the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they're the ones who should determine what the size of signs are appropriate for whatever zone. I understand that you have a current sign on your property. The law is clear in Connecticut, judges have always said the purpose of zoning is to you grandfather nonconformities, but the purpose is to try to get the nonconformity to conform whenever it's feasible to do so. And obviously moving the sign from one property to another is basically constructing a new, not a new sign, but you gotta get a new building permit, you gotta go through all the process again, so. So I guess, you know, a couple of things. One is 32 square feet does seem a little bit small for, for a Route 5 type of thing. It's probably fine for the center of Broadbrook or Warehouse Point, where there's more dense kind of a village type of commercial. But again, that's not what the ZBA is here for. I think that's what the Planning and Zoning Commission is there for, to set regulations that can apply to everybody. So you don't end up saying, you gave this guy some type of advantage over other people. I've always felt that variances were, basically, if everybody was here and you were here, a variance is needed to get you even. And not to get you above, the line, so. Again, I'm not, I think we're all pro-business here. I don't think that's the issue. I think the Planning and Zoning Commission should reconsider their, the sign regulations, and I know the high school came in and wanted to put a digital sign, and we denied them, the same reasons, and I don't know if I think they went to Planning and Zoning and got the Planning and Zoning Commission to change. So, that's my feeling, but I'm only one of the members, so, anyone else have?
I think that's what the board of ed or someone did.
I got the Planning and Zoning Commission to change. the law.
First,
So,
give us the approval.
yeah, technically, I mean, if we were to approve this and somebody were to appeal, we'd lose. Court of law, just knowing from what I know from Connecticut planning law, this is not a legal hardship. It's not a hardship that's unique to the property. And that's very key. If you look at both state statutes and our regulations, the hardship has to be unique to the property. Usually it's setback variances where you have wetlands in the back and you can't put the house anywhere else but near the front, or things like that. Those are true hardships unique to that property and go with the property. If we were to grant a variance for this and we were to move out in 5 years, the variance stays on the land. And therefore, the next person could have a 90 square foot sign, and that might not be as nice as the one you have. So that's my feeling. Anyone else want to discuss?
Well, I think that, with a sign like that they moved with the location, I think it goes well with the property and goes with the building. And, John Deere tractors are not small items, and the sign, if you put a 4x8 sign out there, it's gonna, you won't even see it beyond the tractor. So I'm in favor of moving the sign. I think it's a wise thing to do, especially after, the Scott Stanton had the dealership and United came in and they invested so much in keeping the dealership right in town. Not that I'm doing a favor for them, but I think the sign does go with the building and with the move.
I don't disagree. I just think that that's not a legal hardship at this point. Not
Right.
for us to
Right.
consider, and I think
There is-
going through the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider something perhaps more appealing that would work and work for everybody along Route 5. I think that would be the best way to go about this. And right. And you can always say, the tractors out front, you can't. We don't need it for an identification. You can't miss. It's a John Deere dealership. You almost don't need it if you stand.
Yeah, I don't know the reason that went behind the 91 square foot sign when it was Scott Stanton's, and I think it might have been because the location and the tractors were in front, and the sign had to be up higher than them so they can see the sign through the tractors. But
Yeah, I don't recall it. But I guess I'll take the word. Anyone else have a discussion? Nolan?
Just that I concur with the statements of our chairman. I'd like to, kind of just wave our hand and pass this, with us being pro-business and everything. But I think there might just be too many things going against this application at this time. So again, I concur with the chairman.
Kurt?
Would vote to affirm John Deere's sign.
Okay, well, we're gonna take the vote in a second, but any discussion as to why or?
I go by that sign every day that I go out, and I don't see a big problem with him. I know the law is what it is, and I know that other businesses have had some problems with their signs, but as far as I'm concerned, I think he's well within his rights to put it out there, and that's my opinion.
Okay, so anyone else from the board? Okay, well, that will take a vote. We'll go on a roll call vote. Nolan, Davis? How do you vote?
I vote nay.
Okay, Kurt? How do you
I
vote?
vote aye.
Okay, David, how do you vote?
Nay.
That's a nay, and aye. Chairman will vote, well, it doesn't pass anyway, I vote nay. So it fails on a 2-3 vote. And again, I would suggest, and again, everything that was said was probably good and true. I think the letter of the law and what we're here for is not that, you start putting signs, variances all over the place, and then your zoning regs 20 years from now, you don't know. Stays with the land, you have to look up what happened 20, 30 years ago to try to figure out why something is there. So I think the best way to go about it is to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and see if you can convince them to do a bigger sign along the Route 5 corridor, and then make that sign more conforming, if there's anything that can be done to convince the commission of that. So we'll go on to the next hearing. Legal notice, the next one is the ZBA 022-04. The East Windsor Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Monday, November 7th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to consider the application detailed below. The meeting will be held at the East Windsor Town Hall, 11 Rice Street, Bradford, Connecticut, and online. Details regarding how to attend will be published in the commission's agenda and will be made available on the town's website. ZBA 2022-04. Applicant owner, Connecticut Department of Transportation is the applicant. Jesse Endicott and Daquan Adams are the owners pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes. Section 48-24 has an application before the East Windsor Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance request from section 401 for 41.5 feet, where 50 foot is the required pertaining to front setback requirements, and a variance request from section 401 for 12,500 square feet, where 80,000 square feet is required pertaining to minimal buildable area and the requirements of the A2 zone. Application associated with bridge replacement by the Connecticut Department of Transportation on Scannick Road, MLB number MBL. So we're thinking on the World Series, but MBL section 076-31-009 zone A2. The full copy of the application was available in the Planning and Zoning Department and was posted online. This appeared in the Journal Enquirer editions on October 28th and November 1st. Who's here to present that meeting?
Hi, I'm here. I'm Matt Giannakopoulos from the DOT Division of Rights of Way.
Okay.
So, the reason I'm here tonight is the DOT has a project to replace the bridge carrying 191 over the Scantic River. That project is slated to start in construction next summer. As part of that project, DOT is also realigning the curve on 191, as well as the intersections at Mahoney Road and Old Ellington Road, in order to improve the sightline issues there. And that realignment requires the acquisition of 3,790 square feet of property from 40 Mahoney Road. So as a result of that acquisition, the remaining buildable area will be 12,506 square feet, which is less than the 80,000 required. And the front yard setback from Route 191 will be reduced to 41.5 feet, which is less than the 50 feet required. Now, Connecticut General Statute sections 48-24 states that a condemnation authority, so in this case, DOT, must obtain a variance if the remaining portion of a property after their acquisition does not conform to the area requirements of the existing zoning regulations. So it is pursuant to that statute that I'm appearing here tonight requesting the variance. Question, we always get is, what happens if the variance isn't obtained? And I go back to DOT, and there's two options that they have to weigh. One option is to acquire the property in total. And the other option is to, instead of acquiring the land in fee, to acquire an easement for highway purposes. And that leaves the lot size the same, it doesn't trigger the statute and the project moves forward. So another question I always get after that is, why not do an easement to begin with? And it just from past experience, the DOT has found that it's in the best interest of both the property owner and the department if the department owns outright its right of way. That way, there's no confusion over what rights exist and whose responsibility is to do what. The right of way and especially the actual roadway, it's in the department's interest to own that outright rather than buy an easement. So that is the brief overview of why we're here, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, staff reports?
Ruth, did you have a staff you would like to talk about with this, or?
Well, I guess the first thing I'd like to point out is the property itself is a corner lot, and the frontage issue, you know, at the 50 feet on Mahoney and Scantic, and the portion being impacted is on Scantic. The property is served by public water and public sewer, so it's not an encroachment in any reserve, septic, or well location. And the square footage for building area was already a non-conforming situation for the property, where it was
Yeah.
the existing was 22,045 square feet. It was below the 80,000 square feet for the A2 zone.
So it's, yeah, I hadn't noticed that it was already conforming to start the lot. It must have been created a while ago.
Mhm. And I would also just point out the difference in grade from where this section to be acquired is to where the home is located. It's down gradient.
Yeah, I see that there's also part of the FEMA floodplain
Mhm.
as part of that lot. Yeah, I know I drive by it every day and on my way to work and there is quite a great difference at that portion of the lot where the taking is proposed really doesn't, to me, I've never seen anybody really using that as a yard. It's just, it's downslope from the house and the house, you know, and as we all know, the only road sort of goes up steeply from that point, so familiar with that. Well, you answered my questions about as to what, and I've dealt with this in other towns where Condot widened the road and had to take some land from people, so I'm familiar with the process and what the options are. Any board members have questions? David?
Just still trying to find the drawing.
Oh, yeah, mine. It's at the very back.
So what does it leave the homeowner with a setback from the road to the house?
41.
Goes down to 41 feet?
Yeah, 41 feet.
South of those, isn't it?
I've seen one in Enfield where left them the front door basically 3 feet or 4 feet away from the road. And then basically rendered it useless for the residents that were going to be there. So they did deny the variance and Condot ended up buying the lot. But the residents were against the variance being granted. So for obvious reasons, they didn't want to step out onto the roadway. So. If you wanted to look at it, Dan, do you have any questions?
No.
Nolan?
Yeah, I just have a quick question about the project. So, you know, driving by that area quite frequently, turning from the main road onto Mahoney, it's kind of a tight turn. You know, it's a very narrow road on a corner, you know, coming around the main road. So I'm just wondering what exactly, are we just widening that turning radius coming onto Mahoney? Or what exactly will be the plan there?
Right, so part of what they're doing is flattening the curve on 191 to improve the sightlines, but at Mahoney specifically, they are shifting it slightly to the southwest, let's say, to get it away from the bridge and more of a standard T-style intersection.
Thank you.
So, yeah, just to follow up on that, so are you doing anything on the other side on the Connecticut Water Company, corner, that tight turn? Is that also gonna be, flattened out a little bit?
Yeah, so once you get across the bridge, the curve it does get flattened out. So the bridge alignment is going to be skewed a little bit differently. And then 191 is going to continue on to, so we actually have to buy a good chunk of property from the property across from Old Ellington Road. But that curve is also going to be flattened. And that similar type situation at Old Ellington Road, they're going to shift it a bit to the north and tee it up, the intersection, to improve that a little bit.
Okay, any other questions?
Going to.
Well, I guess I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
How much wider is the road gonna be there? Is the bridge much wider? Is it's gonna be straight from, Mill Street? More or less, it's instead of making the S turn, it's gonna be a straight shot?
No, there's still going to be an S turn. The road actually isn't getting much wider. It's just getting shifted a bit on the corners to flatten out the turning radius. So the road pavement width will be about the same. It's just going to be shifted a bit closer to the house on this side. So at the apex of it's sort of, if you can imagine there, instead of a sharp S curve, it's more of a gradual S curve. So the apex of that S curve at its closest point will be 18 feet closer to the house than the edge of pavement is now. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
You can get moving through there pretty quick then.
yeah, the sight lines will still be not up to standard, but it's because of the way they're redoing the bridge, they have to raise the bridge to allow for it to pass the 100-year storm and for major storm events. So when they do that, they are also lengthening it a little bit. If they didn't do anything to change the road, the sight line there would be even worse. So they have to flatten out that S curve to improve it.
So basically, they're raising the bridge, it'll be almost like a natural speed bump there.
Yeah, I mean, the highway guys won't
A gradual,
want you to call it a speed bump, but
not a bump, yeah, but a gradual.
yeah.
Bump. That'll, all right, anything else? Kurt, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
David?
No, I'm good.
You? Okay, that's it for the commission. Somewhat, I know there's the residents are here. Anyone in the public wants to speak?
We do, if that's okay.
Okay, the chair recognizes Jesse Endicott on the Zoom.
Good evening. My name's Jessie Endicott. I'm here with my partner, Daquan Adams. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Lovely. So you don't know us. We're new to the community, so please allow me a second to introduce ourselves. We met 6 years ago and are the classic American story. We had nothing to start with, and we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. And a few short years later, years ahead of the average age of first-time home buyers, we managed to buy ourselves a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house on half an acre of land for ourselves and our soon-to-be 3 kids. I heard someone say earlier that you haven't seen anybody do much with the front yard, and that's because for the past at least decade or more, it's been owned by a business. So we're the first family to be here in at least 10 years to have an opportunity to do something with the property, and we were really looking forward to it. We're both big into environmentalism and conservation, and so we were looking to seek a conservation easement for our property so that we could preserve native wildlife and make it a bird sanctuary, etc. We also wanted to make a few adjustments to the backyard due to the grading, so that our kids could grow up and play here. You know, the Broadbrook Elementary is right up the street. This is a prime location for us. That being said, this wasn't meant to be a first-time homeowner purchase. This was meant to be our forever home. We really planned on settling our roots here, maybe one day even getting some land to farm and really investing ourselves in the community. So it was quite a shock 5 months after we bought this place in April 2022. It was quite a shock to find out that the Department of Transportation had already made plans to acquire the property. So we never owned the land that we bought. Not only that, but their acquisition also would require us to have an easement on the property, which part of the reason we picked this place is because it doesn't have any easements currently. So our only options now are to concede our property rights, which we never had. You've prevented us from ever having that. So to concede property rights we never had, or to be forced out of the community. And since we're Black and a vulnerable members of a protected class within your community, we're asking you to consider this information, as well as the fact that it sounds like, my understanding at least, that the Department of Transportation is claiming that the posted speed limit through this intersection is 35 miles an hour, which is what causes the problems with sight lines. But in fact, the posted speed limit is 20 miles an hour at both ends of Scantic. We're hoping you'll consider this information and deny their request for a variance and give us an equal opportunity, since the state, the town, and the United States, since this is using federal funds as well, since you have all prevented us from having that.
Okay, anyone else in the public wants to speak? Okay, would the applicant want to respond to that, or?
Yeah, I'll
I
just,
would also, actually, I'm sorry, there's something else I wanted to point out.
Okay.
While all of this has been happening, we bought the property in April. We received an updated tax notice from the town. So the town was kind enough to let us know that our taxes went up, but didn't let us know that this was happening. And then the town showed up in August and chopped trees down beyond the right of way without our permission. The day after we told the Department of Transportation that we weren't willing to negotiate with them, they started sending people every day to come and mow the lawn and do other work on our property, which caused damage. And so I just want to make it very clear that we have done everything right, and we're just asking for justice.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Applicant? Response?
yeah, I'll just say in about the posted speed limit when it comes to the sideline. So when they design the roads, their standards are based on design speeds, not the posted speed limit. So this is why the sidelines, they try to design based on how fast cars are actually going, because they don't go based on the speed limit. That's just my one comment.
And that might be true, but you also said that widening the road wouldn't actually bring the sight lines to where you need them to be. So even if you followed through with your plan, it wouldn't actually accomplish your goal.
Yeah, that part is.
Let me just do a timeout here, because I don't think our job here is to debate the merits of the project. I mean, that's CONDOT. I think, let's keep it to whether or not variance is to be granted or not. I think either way, what happens here, the CONDOT's going to do what it needs, what they feel is correct. So that, there should be another forum for taking that whether or not this project should be going forward somewhere else. So if I'm hearing correctly, Sandika, is that that you're opposed to the variance. If we deny it, then the CONDOT has two options. They can take it, they can go through the eminent domain procedure to stake the property. They can basically buy you out, offer you a fair market value of the property, which I've seen them do in other towns, or
enforce us out of the community. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's not our. We have absolutely no authority over that. That's what CONDOT. They go.
Well,
by.
this affects our civil liberties. And so my understanding is that the town and the state and the United States government are required to protect our civil liberties. And so forcing a vulnerable members of a protected class out of the community is a tactic that's been used in eminent domain proceedings for hundreds of years. And
Well,
so that's why this is important, because there's already a precedent there. And if you follow through with this, you would be upholding it.
Yeah, what I'm saying is what we do tonight will not impact that at all. I mean, if we approve the variance, they just go ahead but their process for, if we deny the variance, which is what you're suggesting, and that may be something, you know, I don't know how everyone else feels, but that may be an option. CONDOT will still under their, you know, the town has absolutely no say in that. CONDOT will then proceed with their regulations under the state statutes to either redesign the project or take the property either by you know, pay for the full amount of the property or just take an easement. So
Okay, thank you.
and the
Understood.
town again has that, whether we approve it or not, it's not gonna matter. If CONDOT has its own procedures and they will do whatever they need to do, but we don't have any jurisdiction over state road projects at this point. And at the local level, so I understand where
Well,
you're
then
and whether or not the you know, whether or not we approve a variance will probably have no impact at all on the project, how it's going to be constructed and what CONDOT's going to do. So
Understood.
let you
Thank
know
you.
that we're not unsympathetic to your testimony and to what you're saying. Unfortunately, and I don't know whether the people that sold you the house were aware of the fact that CONDOT was doing that, and you may have some recourse against them if they didn't disclose it at the time they were selling.
No, that's the thing. I've been to litigation attorneys. No one is accountable in this situation. The Department of Transportation didn't post any information that would have
I
allowed.
don't know about that. That's again something you need to look at, and then if you talk to a counsel like that, you know, that's probably a good idea to get some good sound legal advice. Anyone else?
We have.
Okay, I don't hear anyone else from the audience that wants to speak. I'll have a motion to close the hearing. I'll make the motion to close the hearing. No motion made by Board Member Swain, second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Board Member Noble. All those in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Motion passes. Hearing is closed. No more testimony. We'll need a motion, and it should be done in the affirmative. Motion to approve, in other words.
I'll make that motion to approve the ZBA 2022-4 as written.
And we have a second. We have a second by Board Member Swain. Although, okay, let's have a discussion. And I guess we'll start with Nolan. I'll try switching it up this time.
Thank you. I have no real comments at this time, but I believe that the project should go forward.
Kurt,
I agree with Nolan.
thank you. David,
I agree with the other two guys. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, no, I know it's gonna go forward regardless of how we vote, because it's been in the works for 9 months now already, or 6 months anyway. I don't have any comments.
yeah, and as I mentioned before, our action tonight, it is a statute, you know, that requires CONDOT to come in and do the variance. Doesn't require, unfortunately, it doesn't require a homeowner to agree to it. And in the cases I've seen with denied is when there's an actual safety issues with the. Like I said,
So you'll just let them take a sixth of our property. That's fine. Go ahead.
whether we approve it or not, they can proceed and do it. I mean, if we deny the variance, they could take the whole property and pay you if that's what you would prefer. I mean, That's one of the.
I mean,
The two alternatives that they have, well, the clearing's closed, so let's not get into a debate. You know, the two options are statutory options that Condat has, and regardless of what we do. We can vote to deny it, we can vote to approve it. I think, you know, the merits of it is under statute. There is obviously a unique situation here on this property, and the property is already not conforming, and if you look at it totally from a land perspective, it's making the piece of property smaller. Therefore, variance is required, and I don't think it's the same situation anywhere else in town. You're not going to see it. You may see it in the future if you ever widen the road. They might be taking somebody's front yard, but this certainly is a unique situation. So, having said that, any other comments from the commissioners or the board members? No. All right, all those in favor, let's take a roll call. Nolan? Davis?
I vote in the affirmative.
Kurt?
Aye.
David? Aye. Dan? Aye. And the chairman will vote aye, so the variance is granted, 5-0. All right. Let's get the, I assume the Timoth family, I saw them outside, so they're here.
Yes, sir.
Presentation, so they need to be there, so the camera cuts them off. You guys want to move up?
Never, bro.
Do it to the other side of the room. David, you probably should go in that, David. Why don't you go in that second chair so everybody can see the board members? All right. Otherwise, you don't come in sort of a disjointed voice in the zone. I'm not here to make this point. All right. We'll give a few seconds for the applicants to come in and set up. I assume they're here to have a presentation. You guys all set? Come on in. You got that side of the room if you want to present something. Let's see. That's what's called the Zeo packet. You have the legal.
No, not me. But you guys do that, your president. You guys do whatever
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it available sheet?
Yes.
I guess we did. Well, what's sitting in it? And actually, there's more chairs, we can pull one around.
Yeah.
Okay, while we're doing that, I'll read the legal notice, and the East Windsor Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Monday, November 7th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to consider the application detailed below. The meeting will be held at the East Windsor Town Hall, 11 Rice Street, Broadbrook, Connecticut, and online. Details regarding how to attend will be published in the commission's agenda. Will be made available on the town's website. ZBA 2022-05, applicant owner Kemet Limited Partnership, the state of Isabella and North Road Materials LLC has an application before the East Windsor Zoning Board of Appeals to request an appeal for the notice of violation received September 28th, 2022, NBL 117-36-42B and 43C, zone A-1 and A-2. Again, a full copy of the application is available in the planning office. And posted online. Journal Inquirer editions appeared on October 25th and November 1st. Again, this is an appeal from the order. I think the way we're going to handle this is allow the zoning enforcement officer who issued the order to explain the order, and then the applicants can present their case. Why deal with things as that. That's fine. That way, it's not straight variance appeal.
Okay, so the subject site is 297 North Road. After witnessing fully loaded car haulers parked on the property of 297 North Road, and after pictures supplied by a site visit of the town planner and town engineer taken August 9th of empty car haulers, I sent a friendly reminder of the East Windsor zoning regulations concerning inventory holding areas on September 9th, 2022. Inventory holding areas are defined in the regulations as areas designed for the storage and rotation of automobiles related to the operation of and I apologize, I missed the and, but I put the section definitions in your packet, of an automotive use having motor vehicle dealers / repair license or used car dealer license. Said use is permitted in the A1 special, A1 zone per section 4027 and 815.3 titled inventory holding areas, with the provisions that a special use permit is granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the parcel partially borders a B2, M1, or TZ5 zone. I found no evidence of any permit granted for such land use by the PZC, nor does the land abut the required zones. I found no motor vehicle dealers, repairs license, or used car licenses listed for 297 North, North Road Materials LLC, or under the tenant name with the state of Connecticut. On September 26th, I received a letter in response to the initial regulation reminder from attorney Karen Elise Robbins, who claimed that her client, Mr. Stanley Pennant, assured her no vehicles are loaded or offloaded and no cars are stored on this property. She stated if she didn't hear from me, she would consider the matter resolved. I replied via an email on September 27th that I would be issuing a notice of violation to the property owners, and I included the photographs and a log of car haulers being parked there that I would include in the notice. I sent the notice on September 28th, and I continued to log and photograph car haulers on the property for an additional week. Recognizing that the parcel pre-exists and having a non-conforming contractor storage use, we do understand and expect that there would be a limited number of commercial vehicles on the property, particularly in the form of construction equipment. It is unclear how car haulers loaded with non-commercial vehicles fit into this understanding. Holding on to car haulers while in transit to an automobile facility would be an expansion of the present non-conforming use, which is prohibited under section 303(1)(f). Without a permit for inventory holding in the A1 zone, in accordance with section 404L of the East Windsor zoning regulations, then off-street parking or garaging of residents' vehicles are subject to the following restrictions. Not more than one commercial vehicle with or without commercial markings, and in any case, no trucks, buses, trailers, construction equipment, or any other vehicle exceeding 1.5 ton capacity, excluding recreational vehicles. 1.5 tons equals 3,000 pounds. A typical 5-car hauler trailer empty weighs approximately 8,900 pounds. Fully loaded, it can weigh approximately 26,000 pounds. This far exceeds the permitted weight for a truck to be parked on the property. In addition, as the zoning enforcement officer, I have been diligent in sending violation notices to other properties in the town where parks trucks exceeding the weight limit, and they have complied by the regulations and moved the vehicle in question. Due to these factors, I do not believe that the applicant has met the requirements outlined in the town of East Windsor zoning regulations that would allow parking car haulers on the property at 297 North Road. I maintain the validity of my notice of violation.
Okay, I think I'll let the applicants present their case at this point, and then we'll have questions for either the zoning officer or the applicants after the defense.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm attorney Peter Sterling, and I'm here representing the applicant or the appellant. And with us here are Stanley and Jolanta Pennant, Jay Ussery from J.R. Russo, Bill Hastings, who's a resident of the town, and Edward. And he told me I would remember how to say his Polish last name, that he was correct. So, all right, so now we know we're here. I prepared a memo, and I cited some case law, because that's what lawyers do. We cite case law and prepare memos. And what I tried to do was focus on how this board should interpret this particular set of zoning regulations. And to short circuit the memo, the cases talk about interpreting regs leading to a reasonable and rational result, using common usage of language and using common sense. So at the heart of this dispute is an interpretation of the definition of inventory holding area. And that's in, the definition is in section 203. Areas designed for the storage and rotation of automobiles related to operation of an automotive use, having motor vehicle dealers or repairs license, or a used car dealer's license. And the zoning enforcement officer cites a violation of section 402(7), which states that the inventory holding area is permitted with a special permit in a A1 zone, which is where we are. And she cites that in her memo to the board. And she also cites a violation of 815, which further describes the inventory holding areas. And she also notices the fact, and she's right, that we can't have an inventory holding area in this zone from this piece of property because we don't partially border B2, M1, or TC5 zone. But that's not the issue. The issue is, do we fall under the definition of inventory holding zone? And I tried to summarize what we believe the issue was in my memo. The definition says it's an area designed for the storage and rotation of automobiles. This isn't an area designed for that. It's a piece of land. The vehicles, the car holders are simply parked on the property, whether they're empty or full or partially full. No automobiles are stored on the property. No automobiles are rotated on the property. The definition of rotation seems a little silly because doesn't really mean rotation like we might think of the rotation of the earth. I think it means the rotation of the automobiles from one holding area to another holding area where the auctions take place. That makes sense. But that's not the situation here. No cars are loaded or unloaded from the carriers. I've included an Exhibit A, which was a letter from an organization called Diversified Automotive Inc., which is one of the owners of some of the car carriers. Our drivers have arrangements to park in the property with the owners. Our vehicles are on the property to park only. There is no loading or unloading of the vehicles on the property. We have no related automobile use that requires a permit. We don't need one. We don't do anything. We don't sell automobiles. We don't repair automobiles. New or used, we don't sell them. The car carriers or the automobiles are not inventory of the property owner. It's the way the town seems to treat the regulations is a bit illogical. If they were just car carriers without automobiles, would that be in violation? That simply makes no sense. It's very simple. They're trucks. Whether they have automobiles on them or they're empty, they're trucks. And there's an affidavit from Mr. Kemet, which restates pretty much everything I've just said. But in number 13 says the car carriers are simply trucks. Trucks of various sorts have been parked for short periods of time on the property from time to time since the 1940s. The zoning enforcement officer agrees that this is a grandfathered non-conforming use. All sorts of things have happened on that property over the years. And at one point, the town was happy. If I can just find it. I can just pass this out. This is a letter from the town, because they asked Mr. Kemet to store modular classrooms. So, you know, at this point, after so many years on this property, it's hard to tell what's happened and what hasn't happened. But the bottom line is, it's not an inventory holding area. If it doesn't meet that definition, then it's not in violation of the regulations. It's not an area designed for the storage and rotation of automobiles. It's not related to an automotive use that requires a dealer's or repairs license. And I would like to reply to the new issues that the zoning officer seems to have raised. In particular, where she states that off-street parking or garaging for residence vehicles is subject to certain restrictions in an A1 zone. We've already agreed, I think we agreed, that this is something beyond a residence use of a piece of property. It's been a construction site. It's been everything from a landfill to where we are now. There are trucks on it. There are trucks that park on it. There are other businesses that go in and out of there. And to require, and by the way, this is a totally new issue. None of these issues were that she notes in the first full paragraph of the second page of her memorandum. None of those issues were part of the notice of violation. The notice of violation is specific to whether or not this is an inventory holding area. I would like to ask Mr. Hastings if he could tell us what his connection is with the property with respect to this use.
Well, my only connection is,
Just identify, state your name and address.
I'm sorry. My name is Bill Hastings. My residence address is 26 Main Street, Broadbrook. I am co-owner of B&J Auto Transport. Our address is 44D Bridge Street in East Windsor. Mailing address is P.O. Box 501. We've had our businesses in this town since '91. We have previously had parked down on Wagner Lane. And when that place closed up, I had inquired moving up to Kemet's place because we had nowhere else to be. You can't park behind the office in the fish market, that won't work. So this is where we wound up, was on Skip's property. We load cars either out of the auction sometimes or at dealers, and we put them on the truck, and then the next day we head to the dealership or to the auction, whichever direction we're going, pertaining to the business hours in the auction. That's it.
So do you wind up parking loaded trailers there when the schedules don't allow you to get to where they're supposed to go?
Right, some dealerships we can go 24 hours a day, about half of them you can't. The auction don't even operate 24 hours a day. So we're limited to their hours.
So that's the reason that these trailers are there. That it's a space for these car trailers to park, either if they're empty, waiting to go someplace to get a load and then go someplace else, or they have a load and they have to park there because they can't get to wherever they're supposed to get to next to deliver the vehicles. But it's not a spot where the cars go in and out. They're either loaded car trailers, partially loaded car trailers, or fully loaded car trailers. But it's not an inventory holding area. And if it's not an inventory holding area, it's not in violation of the regulations. And the other issues that the zoning enforcement officer raised for the first time in this memorandum simply, I mean, you know, don't fit with a reasonable and rational reading of the zoning regs that the case law requires. This is at the very least, it's a non-conforming contract of storage use. Although I'll note that definition, the use of whatever it is, that definition of contractor storage yard only came into effect in 2012. And many of the uses on this property have been in existence long before 2012. You know, I don't live in East Windsor, but I was certainly aware of the existence of the Kemet property. In fact, in a prior lifetime, I was aware of the existence of the Kemet property as a landfill. So I know it's been many things over the years. And it's not as if this is a 2-acre piece of property. It's a big piece of property. And there's the potential for many uses within both the contractor storage yard definition and and whatever has happened in the past. You know, the chairman made a comment about the variance that's wrong with the land, and you might have to go back and figure out 20 or 30 years from now what this particular variance was. That's the same thing with this property. I mean, there's so much that's happened with this property over the years. From when Mr. Kemen's father had the property, now he has the property. The zoning enforcement officer has misinterpreted the regulations, and we are asking that the zoning board of appeals overturn the zoning enforcement officer's notice of violation. And I'd also like to ask if Jay Esserly has any comment to make.
Yeah, a couple of things I guess I would like to add. For the record, Jay Erskine, J.R. Russo and Associates. We've been involved with probably Southern Auto Auction since the 70s. I think was probably the first time I worked there. And that was long before 161 South Main Street existed. It was the west side of the road and much smaller than it is today. I think there might have been 6 or 7 lanes. As they started to expand, one of the things that always came into play, and Jose probably remembers some of this, was that the regulations always dealt with parking spaces, and the regulations were kind of geared towards how do we design a parking lot, what are the minimum dimensional requirements, and what are the parking requirements. And it was always kind of applied to Southern and dealerships and that type of thing. And it simply really didn't work because they do have parking areas for employees. They have many parking spaces, but they also have these other things, cars. And it came down to, and I think the logical way that it was kind of explained and made sense is that Southern Auto's inventory or their product or a dealership is a car, but it's really a commodity. It's no different than lumber or coal or whatever you might be selling or whatever you might be storing. And that's when the adoption of the creation of this regulation came into being. And some of the really driving force behind it was the fact that parking lots are designed with 24-foot aisles and 9 by 18 spaces, or back in those days, 10 by 20 spaces. And that's not how they parked or kept their inventory in large volumes of cars. They might have had 4 cars deep with an aisle that was maybe 30 feet wide. It was put together much differently than you would see a parking lot, which is what the regulations talked about. Parking lots, which required landscaping and all these things, which they didn't do any of those things. And neither did most of the dealerships. Dealerships have customer parking, they have display parking, and they have inventory areas. And that's how this regulation was created and how it was meant to be used. And I think it certainly was the intent of the regulation. Now, here in this particular situation, I think was not at all how the regulation was intended to be used. There's not large volumes of cars here. The cars aren't moving around. There are car carriers, so I could see how maybe somebody could look at this and think, oh, maybe this is how this would apply. But in having some knowledge as to when this regulation came in and how it was created, I think this is certainly not was the intent of the regulation when it was adopted and put into the regulations, according to this back in 09. And I honestly thought it was even before that, but maybe it was tweaked in 09. I don't remember, but it goes back many, many, many years, and it was always an issue during the expansion days of the auction when everybody thought of them as parking lots, and they're really not parking lots. It's something quite different from that. And they're operated much different from that. And that's where the regulation came.
I'll just piggyback on what Jay just said. And at the risk of being too lawyerly, just cite one of the cases that I cited in my memo, Trumbull Falls versus Planning and Zoning Commission. Regulations must be interpreted in accordance with the principle that a reasonable and rational result was intended. Jay just explained the reasonable and rational result of the adoption of the inventory holding area regulation. And it starts with areas designed for the storage and rotation of vehicles. And his recollection is that was a great part of how this particular language got into the regulation. Without seeming to beat this dead horse too much, it doesn't meet the definition of inventory holding areas, and it's not in violation. That's our position.
Okay, so we've heard from staff, we've heard from the applicant.
Just ask for some clarification.
Sure.
I just wanted to verify with you, so Mr. Sterling,
Yes.
you stated you believe the definition of rotation was from point A to point B? Is that what you had?
Well, within the area designed for the storage and rotation of the automobiles, within,
Right.
if you put, I'm not agreeing that it means.
I just wanted you to
I'm not agreeing that
clarify.
it means from the rotation from the auction lot to Fred's dealership
Mhm.
in Massachusetts. Okay, that's, I don't,
Okay.
and especially based upon what Jay just said.
Mhm.
I don't think that was the intent of the regulation.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what was your name, Mr.
Hastings-Bill.
Mr. Hastings?
Yeah.
You had said that the reason you park there at times is because you have a 24-hour window where you can't get the cars onto the desired location, or you can't bring the empty car haulers back to the original location.
Well, we can come back empty, but if you can't unload the cars, like if I go to Southern Auction and I'm loaded for somewhere in Massachusetts, but I can't deliver till they're open, and it's later in the evening, then I have to park somewhere.
Right, okay.
And I
I
sure
just,
can't take it to Main Street up here and park it, so I rent a space to be able to set it.
I understand, I just
Right.
wanted clarification.
That's
So in my rational interpretation, that to me would constitute as holding something when it's stuck between two locations. And I just wanted to make that point as a clarification.
So let's go and see if, and I guess we'll go with commissioner questions. Kurt, we'll start with you. Do you have any questions of either the zoning officer or the or the appellant? I guess it's not really an applicant. You're muted. Should be a no. Term of the year.
Kurt, you're on mute.
The most better in the last 2 years. Okay, Nolan, any questions?
Yeah, I think I have a question for the zoning officer. If we were to vote in favor or vote against this motion, what would be the next course of action? What would be the next step, either for the business or for the town?
If you, okay, wait, in favor would mean you're against the regulation? I know it's.
Well, if they voted for, if they vote for the appellant, I mean, I guess to hold the appeal.
Okay.
Then
Then the notification would be done, where
Yeah,
they can
then it
continue
wouldn't
as is. If they voted for the town, for the, for the violation, they would have to find another avenue of being able to keep car haulers on the property.
Is that it, Nolan? Okay, David, any questions?
Are these carriers like they're like 24/7 or is just a couple days a week? Are they there all weekend? You know, meaning like you go, like you said, you pick up something from Southern Auto, you go deliver in Mass tomorrow. It's 8 o'clock at night. You're obviously not going to deliver there. Do you go park in his lot? And then the next morning you're gone. Do you bring that trailer back there? Or is it only when you're doing your operation of picking up the cars?
Well,
What I'm asking is if you guys like, you there, if you deliver everything on Thursday morning, you're there Monday, you're there Tuesday, you're there Friday also. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, when I deliver the load and I come back and there is not the next load yet, yes, the truck gets parked there empty.
I was just looking.
Right.
So that's where the truck permanently gets parked when it's not in operation.
Right.
So you're renting the space.
And that's why,
For long-term parking.
Yeah.
The trucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're not doing anything other than parking, driving away, coming back.
that's all I do, yeah. And that was the same thing to the diversify, because I know most of those guys too, they're not gonna work on a car, they don't know,
Yeah,
but, yeah.
okay, that's all.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Yeah, well, I think you sort of answered my question about how long the trucks do get parked there. There's an area now, is the construction business still going on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's still construction. The area where they're parked, what was it used for previously, or was this in the new area that was designated?
Pretty much a white spot in the driveway.
Okay, so I'm just trying to clarify in my mind, what, obviously, it's a non-conforming use there. But so the area where how many trucks typically are parked there?
For the car carriers?
Yeah. At any given time. What is the max, let's say, what's the maximum? If I were
Probably,
to drive by-
probably 11, 12 now, I think.
Okay, so if I were to drive by once the maximum capacity, yeah, I see about 12 car carriers there.
Probably, but I can get
The area where that park was used previously for what?
Well, we used to be a construction equipment and tractor trailers, that we haul dirt and equipment and everything else.
And they're still there, the equipment?
Well, some of it, but on downsizing.
Okay. So I had to clear them. Anyone in the audience that wishes to ask questions or have any? If you're on Zoom, you need to raise your hand and say so. Right. I don't see anything, anyone. Mr. Anderson,
Hold on. Did you have something to say?
No, I was gonna ask Edward.
Oh, Mr. Anderson has. his hand
That's
up,
fine.
so we can go.
We'll do it. Thank you. Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. Well, I have one primary question first. Was a complaint filed? Or is this just a staff observation?
It was a staff observation, but it stems from a report from when the town director of planning and our town engineer were on property and saw and took pictures of vacant, empty car
Okay.
haulers.
Okay, I just want to understand how it got started. Because I have a thing, I don't think town agents should be out looking for profit. I think that should be an absolute policy. It's like, if the public files a complaint, I think it should be investigated. I think I'm 100% in favor. Okay, so I came to this town in 1971. At that time, had to go to the dump, which was Kemet. Construction was already there. Our zoning regulations were relatively new and pretty lean. That property was able to do its business without any question of any kind. Vehicles, trucks in and out of there forever. And we had trucks going in and out of there for construction business. It's on a state highway. It's got a huge driveway. And I don't think the public even cares. So I have a feeling that this is literally a non-issue because I'm not gonna go through reiterations that we're already gone through about car dealerships and baloney, because none of that exists. I think everybody would have to accept that. They're trucks. Now, as a member of the public, I don't care if it's a dump truck, a tractor trailer dump truck, a car carrier, it makes no difference whatsoever. It's a truck. Trucks are trucks. Ask a kid whether it's a truck. Yep, it's a truck. Case closed. Trucks have been on that property as long as they've been using it. So in my opinion, this is a non-issue. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Just state your name.
Edward Salazowitz, owner of Blue Diamond Paving. I'm a tenant on the Kemet property. And I heard a lot about car carriers. And what this gentleman is talking about is something that I like to bring up. Is what about a tractor trailer that is enclosed? Is there any issues with that vehicle? Which there are a couple who come in and out.
We're not here to answer questions. So
Okay, well, I just like to compare the car carriers with other trucks, exactly what this gentleman is talking about. And I've never seen a vehicle go on or off any of the car carriers for whatever the concern is. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Last chance.
I would like to, it's Ruth Calabrese,
Okay.
town planner, just point out the fact that we've seen those trailers loaded with cars parked up towards the front of the property behind the milling sperm on occasion. Didn't go looking for trouble, was out doing a regular inspection as part of the permit renewal and saw the empty trailers and saw a series of aisleways with cones. Looked to be more than just a couple trailers out front. And that's, you know, wasn't looking, didn't go out trying to find. Just want to say, as a course of being out there for an inspection, saw something of concern, and we watched it for a little bit, and Danielle sent out her letter of inquiry following that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else going before entertain a motion to close the hearing? No, I'll make a motion to close the hearing. Okay, second, Mobile was made the motion, seconded by Mr. Swain. All those in favor of closing the hearing? Raise your hand. Okay. Hearing is closed. Let's see, we need a motion, and I think again, just to make it on the, this is a different thing than the variances to affirm, I just said this. Yeah, it's like to affirm the appeal of the applicant regarding the notice of violation received September 28th, 2022. I guess that would be the, that would be the applicant's proving his case. So vote in favor of the applicant's decision.
Okay, so you want me to make the,
If somebody would make that,
I'll make the motion
we can discuss it. No.
to approve the appeal of the applicant in the as written, also on the number 2022-05.
22-05. We have a motion? Second. And seconded. Okay, let's have a discussion on there. I guess I can start. And I heard what the Mr. Starship said regarding that, and many towns, yeah, I think early on did not have a good way of dealing with parking spaces for auto dealerships and the like, and at first they were insisting on these 10x20 with the aisles and nothing. So at some point, you did start making differences between what we call inventory holding areas and customer parking. So you could have a use self-storage. Sometimes people allow RVs and other things to be parked on a self-storage facility, to be parked in somewhat tighter quarters and piled up in a way that didn't meet the letter of our, what I call our consumer parking, which is the people that come in and out. Those tended to be cars that weren't coming in and out at any given time. They were held on the property till they got auctioned off or sold off on that this auto dealership, and then they were gone. So it wasn't an hourly activity. So, with that, I do agree. Having said that, I think that my feeling is when I read the regulations, I tend to agree with the applicant that particular part of the regulation was not intended for the type of use that is occurring on the property. And I think literal reading of the regulations, which I think the court said, you got to take it face value what the regulation says. And even on the intent, I think it's not good. Having said that, the notice of violation is very specific to that one section only. I think I can reasonably vote to uphold the applicant's appeal. However, I don't want to make any go on record as saying that there is no judgment as to what else may happen. Maybe on the property. It is a non-conforming use. You can change. It's possible it could be a change. By providing trucks to be parked there and going in and out. I don't know if you want to have I don't know if that's the case or what the previous, but I just want to make it clear that my vote for that would not make any judgment on whether or not the actual use there conforms to our regulations. But that's not what we're doing. And right now we're very narrow interpretation of the zoning regulations, which I don't think hold for this particular use as stated. So again, not knowing the full history, I was here for 10 years, but not as far back as Paul or Jay was. So I don't know all the uses that have been on there, and then so I was asking, what was used before on the property, on where they're parked, and whether or not that there may or may not be a change, which could in theory be approved by the commission. They downsized their construction vehicles use, and looks like they're now starting to rent spaces to both these type of dealers, the car carriers, and also tractor trailers. So that may be something that could be remedied, but again, we're not here to do that. We've got a very narrow focus, and that's the regulation. Nolan?
No real further comments. I tend to agree with the chairman on that.
Kurt?
No
I-
comments,
Go ahead.
no comments.
All right, thank you. David?
No comments.
Yeah,
I could just make two comments. I know, one, like the size of the trucks and the trailer trucks being on North Road is a non-issue because what's a D8 way, it's 50,000 pounds probably right on a trailer, so it's
Well, you tractor trailers is up 80,000 pounds.
80,000 pounds, right? So a 26,000 pound trailer. I know the frequency of the trucks. You see them all the time. And Cisco's running food up to Stafford on trailer trucks, so it's not any more traffic on North Road than that's a non-issue. And the other thing is the way the zoning was written for holding area, rotation area. I know there was a big issue back in the 90s with the empty lots on Route 5 with the car carriers coming in and unloading and then running unregistered cars down the road to the auction. And that's why a lot of those laws were regulations were written. So, you know, it's all.
if there when they went to the, on the side of the road, they both have a test track. I don't know if they ever use it or if they use it for inventory holding, but I remember the complaints, people driving around the block.
Yeah.
They had like a half hour to.
Those days are gone. They still do have a track.
They still have a track.
Oh, yeah.
I know, it used to be, we had like, what, half an hour to.
It's something like that. Yeah, they can put a trailer plate on it, take it around the block.
Take it around before, you could nag on it.
That was when your track.
When the trucks were parking on every empty lot down Route 5,
Right.
loading on road.
I remember that. Okay, any other comments from the board? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. And again, and so I'll take a roll call. I guess a yes vote upholds the appeal of the applicants. So we're all clear on that. Kurt, how do you vote?
Yay.
Nolan?
Yay.
David?
Yes.
Yes, and I will vote yes, again with the qualifier, that we're very narrowly considering the definition of inventory holding area is cited in the letter, that this doesn't apply to that. And we're not making any judgment as to whether or not there's any other sections of the regulation which may or may not be violated. So. Thank you. The appeal is upheld. Right, so that's it for hearing. Boy, you're gonna pay us overtime? No, it was the last meeting, 10 minutes? Yeah.
Check from the mail.
Thanks, Dave. So review bylaw, I guess is the next order of business on the agenda, is that correct? Yes.
Don't forget to vote tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say? Vote early and vote often.
Well, you know, it's funny, Kobe Roberts, I heard. You know, Kobe Roberts.
Yeah.
Her father was a big political boss in New Orleans,
Right.
and I heard her speak at a convention in New Orleans, and I said, you know, my daddy said, why we have our burials above ground, so that they can vote. So they could use for the deck to vote. So that was. That's what his dad used to all right, bylaws, right, I know I had them somewhere here. I have a quick question, you think we're gonna be much longer on okay, no, I think it's, you know, so what are you asking us to do?
So
So at the last meeting, you had asked for copies of the bylaw, and it was really in relation to annual election of officers.
Are they in their bundle?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yes, they're in the package.
And we have regular meetings, if you take care of that with the clerk at all, or schedule for next year.
We did that at the last meeting,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
And I'm just trying to see if I have the bylaws in my thing too. The election of officers is the second meeting after local elections. So that's why we took it off the agenda for this month.
All right, so we can put it on to this month. just everybody take a look at these, and if there's any changes or anything you see this, I'll take a look at them, like, we need to change things. Get into Zoom. The area, the arrow,
Yeah.
and just take a quick look and see. if we-
Yeah. One of the things I recently heard was that if we were going to have membership participate remotely, that we should have it written in the bylaws.
Yeah, we should have.
Right.
Things changes. Any part, I think you're okay. That's without you. Sure. Yeah, sure. No problem. Any public participation out there? Anybody? No. Yeah, anyone wants to speak? Do so. Okay, so no public participation. Approval of minutes for October 3rd. Anybody had a chance to read them and do you have a motion at all? To approve them as written?
I motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, we have a motion. Second. Okay, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Motion to adjourn, order.
I'll make a motion.
Adjourn. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor of adjournment? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for sticking with us tonight.
That was a good one.
Yeah. We have three,
Yeah.
three
Three
good
for one.
applications.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we not recording anymore? or-
You are recording.